Hey everyone, my name is Jacob, and for the final assignment, I went ahead and watched The Call of Cthulhu from 2005. A little bit of a brief background on this film. It was developed in 2005 by an independent studio. It's a silent horror film produced by Sean Branney and Andrew Lemon. It was made in association with the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society, and quick side tangent, in researching this movie, a little bit of the background on it, I found out on their Wikipedia page that they've actually made a few parodies of some famous musicals that are basically all the words are replaced by Cthulhu mythos stuff. So that was rather amusing. If you get the chance, go check it out. Um, and then also, this movie has a pretty noticeable 1920s aesthetic. It's being a silent film and all, which makes it kind of like a period piece for both the era that it's emulating with it being a silent film, but also when the story that H.P. Lovecraft wrote takes place. Another really kind of funny thing, I saw this one on the Wikipedia page too. Uh, it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, which to me means nothing, but I found that kind of funny. Uh, What else? Oh yeah, the cosmic horror themes in this one. They're pretty obvious. It's a Lovecraft work, so they're going to be in there. A lot of them too, but I'll focus on three. The first one of them is the fear of the unknown. Lovecraft's got a great quote in this story. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate its contents. That right there, I think, really rings home the idea of being fearful of what you cannot comprehend, especially in this story where you've got one of the great old ones rising out from the dark, and the inability to comprehend not only its shape but what it is and what it can do just strikes fear into basically everyone who comes across it, whether it be in person or through secondhand events. Uh, the next big theme is challenging humans' primacy. As you can see, we got a screenshot for the movie there of the stop motion Cthulhu being all menacing there. Cthulhu, like I mentioned, he's an old one from the mythos, one of the first ones that is kind of really shaped out in the long line of great old ones. And he is made out to be kind of an all-powerful being who haunts and is revered by his followers, cultic followers. Um, And that leads us to our next one, which is the awakening of some terrible unknown entity, a la Cthulhu right there. Um, it is by the actions, at least implied, heavily implied, by the cultic actions of groups and also people seeking out Cthulhu. And then finally, as we see in chapter 3 of the original work, the group of sailors coming across the island, which rose up out of the sea, and they, out of their own curiosity, go and they look through the island and they find this big door and they awaken Cthulhu from the depths. I guess there's a fourth one, Madness. Madness is another big one that's really not touched on in the book too much, but it's pretty heavily touched on in the movie adaptation. Uh, there on the left, we see Johannesson. He's going mad with the typical cosmic horror movie trait of people's eyes bleeding out. And on the right, we see our narrator, who was expanded upon in the movie as going insane by the end, being institutionalized while telling his story to one of the doctors, and how he's asking him to burn everything that he got from his great uncle. Another thing too, there's a lot of correlations between this movie adaptation from 2005 and the prior adaptation of one of Lovecraft's works, not direct adaptation, but certainly inspired, within the Mouth of Madness. Both of the narrators, as we see, are shown at the end of their stories. So in Mouth of Madness, we start at the end of the story with our narrator. Same thing in this 2005 adaptation. We're starting at the end of the story with that opening quote, and they're both inside a mental institution. Another thing too, which I noticed, was the use of stop motion, and this will lead me into my next point too. Um, Both of these movies have kind of, at times, uncanny stop motion to represent the old ones coming out of their slumber, which kind of falls into that uncanny valley of where it's right on the edge of your brain being able to make sense of it, but it's just out of reach. And that leads me into why I think, in a lot of ways, cosmic horror is really hard to adapt to the big screen. Um, in a lot of ways, cosmic horror works on the page because you have to imagine what's being told to you. And H.P. Lovecraft is really great at doing that with his words and his choice of diction. And the best way I've seen so far in a lot of the movies that we've watched is keeping things kind of in the dark or obscuring a lot of what's being shown. And some of the best moments of dread come from just not even showing the entity, it's implying that it's there. Um, and in the original work by H.P. Lovecraft, he describes the way that the island looked, kind of like with these angles of masonry which shouldn't have been there, an angle which was acute but behaved as if it were obtuse. There's no good way to show that on screen, in my opinion at least. They do a really great job in the 2005 adaptation, but it amounts to kind of these obelisk-like structures with many right angles, but nothing that quite reaches that dream-like state of ambiguity that is able to be shown by Lovecraft with his words. Um, but I do think there's something that does get a little closer, and there's some parts of the movie that get as close. A lot of like M.C. Escher's paintings kind of remind me of what Lovecraft is going for. Different time period, surely, but there's a lot of overlap there, which I think the 2005 adaptation did a good job of extruding from H.P. Lovecraft's words. Um, but in some ways, when you show too much, it gets to be difficult. And of course, the original versus the adaptation, the original work, purely a book, whatever you're reading off the page is what you can see in your mind, versus a silent film, which is all show and not a lot of tell, if that makes sense, right? In a silent film, you don't have sounds or dialogue or really a lot of the same mechanisms that are typical of a movie, um, which can keep you on the edge of your seat. Instead, the dread is shown with just the imagery, and the imagery is great, but overall, I think the book did it better. So that was my take on Call of Cthulhu from 2005. I hope you enjoyed it. Cthulhu Rising Out of the Sea, 2005. That's me in the corner.